And I come from an Italian Catholic family where my mother converted and became a Jehovah's Witness, the only one in my family to do so. So I was raised in the religion, chose not to join, and decided to become a journalist instead.
Jehovah's Witnesses were founded in 1879 and have always been outsiders.
Jehovah's Witnesses are actually insiders. They have information that isolates their minds from the outside society. Their Watchtower society is a microcosm of the larger world society. They have a loaded language that isolates their minds with terms and phrases that only they understand, and they know outside of that environment other people would not understand those terms and phrases, and this serves to isolate the minds of the members, keeping them inside this microcosm. They also have publications that members keep from outside sources. They have one book called Organized to Do Jehovah's Will that the public cannot have access to. And what these privileged publications do is serves to isolate the minds of the members even more. There are publications that only certain members within the environment are entitled to have. The elders have such a publication, and it's a privileged publication, or in other words, controlled information. And what this does is isolates the minds of the elders from the rest of the community, and they have their own private meetings that the public or the other members are not entitled to participate in. So things are disclosed in those meetings, which further isolates the minds of the elder body inside this environment even further.
Leader C.T. Russell challenged mainstream Christian beliefs like hellfire and got rid of the collection plate. He urged people to read the Bible for themselves, to have a first-name relationship with Jehovah God.
I think a lot of people who were schooled in Christianity, who went to Sunday school, they get perceptions of Jehovah's Witnesses that were taught to them, perhaps stereotypes or erroneous assumptions that Jehovah's Witnesses are not Christian, or be wary of them, or they think only special people get to go to heaven. And
Jehovah's Witnesses do in fact believe that only special people go to heaven. They take the symbolic teaching in the book of Revelation of 144,000 symbolic representatives that would have a heavenly calling, and they believe this applies to a literal number of people who will go to heaven. So what this person is doing in this video is speaking in an erroneous way himself.
so there's a lot of, or perhaps they're a cult.
Just continue reading the Bible.
Well, we do that too.
Very good.
So.
I'm not sure if we're reading the same Bible, though.
Well, I think so.
Okay, that individual said, I think so. Truthfully, the New World Translation is not the same Bible as other Bibles. There have been some words and phrases added that it took me a long time to realize. Words that are designed to pretty much support the Watchtower Society form of religion that are not necessarily genuine writings. And I won't get into a whole bunch of examples in this video, but I do just want to bring to the viewer's attention that their Bible is not the same as other Bibles. Most people would not argue that.
We do come before you humbly this evening to thank you so much for this time that we have to be able to spend together.
You really have to look at the classic definition of what is a cult, and do Jehovah's Witnesses match it? I mean, are witnesses holed up in some compound in Idaho? Have they only...
I didn't realize that the classic definition of a cult would mean that they would be holed up in a compound in Idaho, but truthfully the Watchtower Society does have compounds. They're not called compounds, but one is in Brooklyn, New York, the other is in Paterson, New York, and the other is in Wallkill, New York. At these compounds there are underground tunnel systems. There are that's the majority of members don't have access to. In Wallkill, I know this for a fact because I stayed there for a number of days and I had keys to most of the compound, but there were doors and corridors underground that could not be accessed by the rank and file members. These compounds also have security systems where a card is used to access parts of the building. The entrance is accessed after 9 o'clock at night via a special card. It's like a credit card. There are gates, so people can't just drive in. They have security guards that travel around the compound in form of security. So it is a compound, and the people live right there. They work right there. I know a case specifically where a doctor went there to serve as a doctor, and the governing body members or whoever was in charge, oversight over the Wallkill division, the Wallkill compound, had him cleaning toilets for a number of days before he began practicing at this facility. But that's typical communist behavior. Communists will take farmers and make them doctors, and they'll take doctors and make them farmers. It's a type of mind control, and it certainly applies here at these compounds.
They've only been around since the 1960s. Are they, do they follow one magnanimous leader?
They've actually been around since 1879, and they follow psychologically one leader calling itself slave. What the slave is a composite group of men making up one slave class, as they say. This slave supposedly comes from the Bible at Matthew 24 verses 45 through 47, and this slave controls all the affairs of God's people, quote unquote, here on earth today. And this slave is represented by a group calling itself governing body. So the governing body take directions from the slave. The individuals that actually run the Watchtower Society are from another Watchtower Society with two words from Pennsylvania. If you have New World Translation of the Bible, you can look in there and see that there are two corporations. One in Brooklyn is a nonprofit that is represented by this group of men, but they take their directions from this other group calling itself slave that nobody really knows who that is. And so yes, if you look here, you'll see two. You see a Watchtower, two words in Pennsylvania, and then Watchtower, one word in Brooklyn. Those are two corporations with directors running both corporations. The governing body has nothing to do with running the corporation in Pennsylvania, Watchtower, two words. Those directors are unknown to the rank and file members of Jehovah's Witnesses, and certainly unknown to the majority of the public. The original founder of the Watchtower Society was an individual named William Henry Conley, and he was a steel tycoon. He founded the seed money that formed the Watchtower Society, and he was the real first president, and Charles Taze Russell was the secretary, treasurer.
They give all their money away? And the answer to that is no.
No, they do not ask that you give all your money away. What they do is they do accept donations through a contribution arrangement in boxes that are strategically placed at the exits of the Kingdom Halls when you're on your way out. And when most people are probably at their happiest, when they're leaving the meeting. But the Watchtower gives what are called timely reminders about every 6 months that to be pleasing to God and to show God your appreciation for the arrangement, they do accept your life insurance policies, real estate, properties, wills, any form of estates, through arrangements that are made where these contributions can be made directly to Watchtower Society. Two words. Where's that? Pennsylvania.
They've been around for 130 years. Since the 1970s, Jehovah's Witnesses are run by a committee.
Again, I mentioned about this committee, and it's not as it appears. These men are under the direction of others.
So a committee of 9 to 12 men who constantly rotate and change. So there is no one leader. And Jehovah's Witnesses, unlike most religions, pass no collection plate. There's no tithing, there's literally no collection plate at any service. All the donations are voluntary and anonymous. So
that's true, there is no collection plate, but the donations are not all anonymous. If you make a large donation for tax write-off purposes, you have to identify who you are. So the Watchtower Society is very well aware of who are giving the large donations to this arrangement. And that nepotism and favoritism does apply when it's time to appoint people to positions of what they call oversight.
And the witnesses interact with society. The children go to public school. witnesses work?
Okay, the witnesses work in society, but they're encouraged not to work for any major corporations or to get a higher education. Also, a lot of the Jehovah's Witness children are homeschooled, and they may even attend public school, and that is true, but they are socially, emotionally, and psychologically isolated from the other school children. They are not allowed to salute the flag with the other school children. They're not allowed to participate in any holidays, bobbing for apples, dressing up in costumes at Halloween, or grab bag at Christmas time. And this serves to stigmatize the child among the other children and affect that child socially growing up. Another thing is, in many cases, you don't hear it reported, but the parents will actually check to make sure their children are not associating with other school children, such as on the playground. And I've heard of cases where mothers have gone to the school, talked to the teachers, let the teachers know they don't want their children associating with other children on the playground, and some parents have even driven by the school to check to see if their children are playing with other children on the playground. And this serves to cause severe psychological and emotional damage to children that are in this environment that this person is not touching on. He's not speaking about this.
In society, so you can't call them a cult because they don't fit the definition.
Actually, according to Robert J. Lifton, who specializes in, he's an expert in understanding cults, would refer to this as a destructive cult because it does destroy families and friendships through the shunning policy of anybody who simply wants to leave this religion. If a person leaves the religion, the parents are ordered to disassociate from children who leave when they reach like 18 years of age. Children are admonished to disassociate from parents who have left, and if they're not in the same household, especially. So it breaks up family relationships and friendships. So does it fit the criteria of a cult? It certainly does. A destructive cult, actually.
They are misunderstood in a smaller religion, and so it's easy to label somebody as lesser than.
Jehovah's Witnesses are only misunderstood in the minds of Jehovah's Witnesses. The general public has a very good idea what Jehovah's Witnesses are really about. It's Jehovah's Witnesses themselves that are confused about Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's why they feel often misunderstood. Mr. Engardio, who made this video, feels Jehovah's Witnesses are misunderstood. The reason is because Mr. Engardio was indoctrinated since his early childhood to the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses. If you notice, he says he comes from an Italian Catholic background, which is not true, because if you listen further, you'll notice he says that he was raised one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So did he come from an Italian Catholic background or a Jehovah's Witness background? He clearly was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses by his mother, and I'm sure she's quite proud of his videos that he's made. But a question that the general public would have to ask Mr. Engardio is why he would promote a religion that he would not join himself. Mr. Engardio left out some very important details about the Watchtower Society. For instance, if a person joins the religion by water baptism, the person now is under the control of the Watchtower Society. The person can now be shunned by his own family and all of his friends. If a person does not join the religion, this shunning policy does not take effect. So Mr. Engardio safely avoided the shunning by not joining, yet comes out on YouTube and other places promoting this religion. You really have to understand that Mr. Engardio does not realize what he's doing. He's not intentionally trying to deceive people. His own mind has been deceived, and because his mind has been deceived, he's promoting the same deception.